Well, 450 million people around the world who relied for their news on Radio Free Europe and Radio Free Asia and the Voice of America can rest a little easier because Judge Paul Oetken in the Southern District of New York has issued a temporary restraining order to reverse what Kari Lake, some people may be thinking, Kari Lake, she was confirmed to do anything? No. Kari Lake, as a special advisor to President Trump, took an axe and destroyed over 500 employees at what operates Radio Free Europe and the Voice of America, an agency called the United States Agency for Global Media, established by Congress, which can't be destroyed or mothballed or chloroformed by the executive branch, even one that is currently occupied by a deluded, power-hungry, megalomaniacal Donald Trump. Those aren't my words. Well, they're not really the words of the judge either, but he did find a way to avoid a First Amendment analysis, but find that Donald Trump and Kari Lake, by extension, violated the Take Care Clause of the Constitution. We'll discuss the separation of powers section of the Constitution. We'll discuss, and the Administrative Procedures Act, because shuttering this organization overnight is the very definition of being arbitrary and capricious. You know who's not arbitrary and capricious? Legal AF, and hopefully me, Michael Popok. Let's get down to the case. It's called Patsy Wetasekowara, I'm not making that up, versus Kari Lake and others, including U.S. Agency for Global Media. Very interesting little side note. Paul Oetken, who's a very well-respected judge in the Southern District of New York, started his career as a young associate, the way I did, at a big major firm. His firm was Jenner & Block. Why is that interesting? Because Jenner & Block is currently on Donald Trump's S list, you fill in the blank, his naughty list, and he's trying to blacklist them. They just sued and have obtained a temporary restraining order just on Friday to stop being blacklisted and have their law firm effectively destroyed by Donald Trump, blocking them from having any business or representing any clients before any federal agencies or going on any federal property, including federal courts. Back to this federal court. I have a link there too, because my law firm that I started at, Skadden Arps, decided they'd rather pay $100 million in tribute and extorted payment to Donald Trump rather than end up on the blacklist. I'd rather fight. Let's keep fighting. Here's what the judge said. Let me set up the case for you. Government employees, all the people representing the broadcast journalists, the employees, the staffers, the people that ran Radio Free Europe, Radio Free Asia, Voice of America, unions, not-for-profits, all for independent journalism, bound together and brought this suit on against the United States Agency for Global Media and against Kari Lake. Apparently 450 million people worldwide rely on this agency. Now, how do we know this was coming? We knew this was coming because Donald Trump issued an executive order on the 14th of March titled Continuing the Reduction of Federal Bureaucracy. And he said in a follow-up statement, President Donald J. Trump's executive order will ensure that taxpayers' dollars are no longer on the hook for radical propaganda. If you can believe it, they actually made the agency, which is a creature of congressional creation, statutes and laws created by Congress, funding created by Congress. Do you see where separation of powers is going to come in and violation of it? Do you see where the Take Care Clause is being violated? Okay. Congress creates it. Congress funds it. Donald Trump and Kari Lake actually, I think Kari Lake wrote it, right on the basically graffiti defacing the website for the agency itself, where the agency self-immolates and admits that it's a radical agency that should be shut down on its own website. The gall, the judge cites to it. USAGM, the agency, posted an update on its website. This agency is not salvageable. From top to bottom, this agency is a giant rot and burden to the American taxpayer, a national security risk for the nation, and irretrievably broken. I don't know if Kari Lake wrote that or Stephen Miller, the White House deputy chief of staff, wrote it. While there are bright spots within the agency, this graffiti on the face of the website said, with personnel who are talented and dedicated public servants, they are the exception rather than the rule. I mean, could you imagine them saying that out loud? That's like a local restaurant closing. And on the way out, they post a sign on their door that says, "We've always served shitty food. We've been playing cat and mouse with the health department for years. And you should know that." Just totally crazy. Okay. So then right on cue on March 16th, Trump and Kari Lake terminated the contracts with 600 personnel and contractors effective immediately. Eventually, I mean, they fired everybody. And then Russ Vought, he said, well, you don't need the funding. So Russ Vought, Office of Management and Budget, cuts off the funding of the fuel supply. Kari Lake fires everybody. And all the party line that they keep giving the courts and publicly is, we're just reducing it to the statutory minimum required by Congress. No, you're not, the judge said. You're not faithfully executing the laws and taking care to execute laws created by Congress. You are destroying creations of Congress funded by Congress in violation of the Constitution. Here's what the judge had to say in the actual discussion about why he's going to, first he looks at what happened on page 7. Beginning on March 15th, USAGM has taken several actions to implement the mandates of the executive order. Senior advisor Lake, again, not confirmed by the Senate, has terminated the grant agreements for affiliate organizations. The director of stations and operations has instructed all Foreign Service employees to shut down radio transmitters, place local staff on leave, and expect administrative leave themselves shortly. Then they emailed over 600 broadcast journalists, technicians, budget analysts, electronics engineers, and others that they would be fired. Now, when he then goes through, as a judge, he then goes through the various constitutional and other violations that he found. He starts with arbitrary and capricious. Now, Voice of America tried to make a First Amendment argument, but I think the judge wisely focused on these constitutional violations, not going to the First Amendment. Arbitrary and capricious. Under the Administrative Procedures Act, again, which the presidency has to take care to execute, you can't take an action without a reasoned analysis and without enough time to allow people that depend on the agency action to protect themselves. And the judge says on page 9, defendants have failed, the Trump administration has failed to provide any such reasoned analysis, including examination of relevant data and a satisfactory explanation of the action taken, and therefore they have violated the Administrative Procedures Act. He said instead, there's just one line in the memo in that defendants state that the layoffs and the grantee contract terminations were in furtherance of Trump's memo and his executive order. This single line, the judge said, devoid of data or any independent explanation, is grossly insufficient and falls short of a reasoned analysis. He then goes on to constitutional violations on page 10 over to 11. He said the take care clause of Article 2 provides that the president shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed. Just as the Constitution prevents Congress from intruding on the president's power to execute laws, the president and his subordinates, that's you, Kari Lake, do not wield authority to set aside congressional legislation by executive order. State versus Trump, a Southern District case from 2025. Federal agencies are creatures of statute, the judge continues on page 11, and Congress created this agency by statute. So his big position is all the president is allowed to do is to execute on laws that are on the books. On page 12, he says, the executive's job, the president, is limited to taking care that such statutes be faithfully executed, withholding congressionally appropriated funds, and effectively shuttering a congressionally created agency simply cannot be construed as following through on this constitutional mandate. And while Lake has continually used phrases such as shedding everything that is not statutorily required and streamlining our operations to what is statutorily required by law, insinuating that these actions fall within the statutory parameters laid out by Congress, such language is impossible to square with that, with what plaintiffs allege have happened, that defendants have shut down all of the U.S. AGM operations. He then goes through the separation of powers. Congress has the power of the purse, not the president, not even the Office of Management and Budget. And so at the end, this is what he's ruled. This is why Voice of America, Radio Free Europe, Radio Free Asia is back up. Why I believe they've taken down some of these screens on their own website. It is further ordered that pending the hearing and determination of plaintiff's motion for preliminary injunction, the next stop on the train for injunction, defendants and those acting in concert with them are temporarily enjoined from taking any actions to effectuate the executive order and to reduce the workforce. They can't terminate, they can't reduce in force. Anyone that's received the notice that they've been terminated will now receive notices that they've not been terminated, and they can't close any of the offices. Now, does this put, the Radio Free Everything and Voice of America back in action? We'll have to see. Rehiring everybody doesn't. What I would have liked to have seen in the temporary restraining order is a order that they restart the transmitters, restart the radio programming, and get back to the business of being the Voice of America. I just don't see that yet. We'll continue to follow it right here on Legal AF. So until my next reporting, I'm Michael Popok.
I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok Firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.